Today, I just want to talk about how we're all just fed up with this job search. We're fed up with the fact that companies are just posting ghost jobs that they have no intention of hiring anybody for. We're fed up with the fact that we can go on 2, 3, 4 interviews and then hear nothing back. We're fed up with the idea that we can go to Glassdoor and compare salaries to our previous salaries at the exact same position, only to see that the modern offers are coming at 20 to 30% less. And that's if you even get an offer. There's just so much frustration out there. But I don't want to just keep talking about my story all the time. So today I went over the internet and got about 5 other people's stories about what's going on and their frustration and how they're feeling about this job market. So let's dive in. Let's start off with LinkedIn. And this person is addressing Centene Corporation. And Patricia says, there is a problem with a company's resume review process, namely yours, Centene. When a person submits an application and within 1 hour, 30 minutes receives a rejection email. This happened to me today. Actually has happened a few times with Centene. More specifically, the resume was written specifically for the role/job. All qualifications in my resume perfectly match the job description and role expectations listed by Centene. Since my qualifications matched exactly to the role, and I have the qualifications, education, and years of experience, ageism must be at work. Very disappointing, Centene. And there's a lot there, and that's pretty brave, that's pretty bold to call out. And she mentioned, so the Centene, or at least someone on the social media staff, will be able to see this. And I don't know if that's a really smart strategy, because I feel like that's gonna get to the right people and they're just gonna blacklist Patricia. But she just seems completely fed up. She's like, I've applied multiple times and I'm always having a bad experience. So she's probably at this point just thinking, hey, this is not the kind of company that I want to work for. This is not the kind of process that's going to lead to the job of my dreams. So I'm just gonna call them out. I'm gonna burn this bridge, because I don't think you're gonna get hired after a post like that. But it's just showing this is how fed up people are getting, that they're probably not thinking logically and long term. They're just like, I'm not gonna deal with this. So maybe they'll change for the better, but probably not. We've talked about in the past how there are certain companies where you apply and then 2 or 3 days later, you'll finally just get a rejection email. And if you look at the job with the other batch of jobs, you'll see they're sending out all the rejection letters and all the rejection emails at the same time. And also to the point of people saying that you have to lie in your resume, you have to lie in your resume. Well, like this person saying, my resume perfectly matches the job description. So I'm sure that she went through the job posting and matched her resume to have all the skills and all the things that they're looking for. And I'm sure she has the experience as well. So it's not a matter of lying, because she meets all the job descriptions. She's applied to the same company multiple times. And if she's addressing Centene directly, hopefully that means that she's applying on their actual website. So she's not going through LinkedIn or Indeed or a third-party staffing company. She's going to their website and applying to jobs with a resume that is exact fit. And she's not even getting a call. She's just getting a standard rejection letter in an hour and a half. So there's no way a recruiter in an hour and a half, a human being, reviewed that and said, this person, we shouldn't even call or anything like that. So definitely not a good look, probably for either side, but let's go on. So we're gonna talk all about Meta in the next few days, and I'm gathering people's feedback about what it's like to interview at Meta, what it's like to get laid off, and just general people around the internet's general thoughts and feelings about Meta. But here's just a little sampling. So this is also a post on LinkedIn, and it's from Jennifer. And she says, when Meta and Microsoft announced layoffs this week of their lowest performers, it struck a nerve with me. This label doesn't just end roles, it can damage careers. Take Meta as an example. Their hiring bar is among the highest in the world. The so-called lowest performers at Meta are likely to be top performers elsewhere. I know this because I worked there for almost 2 years and saw firsthand the incredible talent that they attract. Those employees weren't hired by chance. They cleared rigorous hiring standards. People who are truly poor performers are let go sooner. So the people who remain are often rated only slightly lower than others by the slimmest of margins. I've been in leadership roles where layoffs were necessary, so I understand the difficulty of making those decisions. I also absolutely agree that it is reasonable to let people go for lower performers than others on the team and to share that reasoning with them. So let's just take a pause right there. Because there's a lot of interesting things. So yes, I know someone who is going through the process of interviewing at Meta, and it is legit. It's not just a matter of, we'll just hire a bunch of people and see what happens. No, it's slow, they're asking tough questions, and you gotta be a genius level to even get past the first round. So if you've made it and you now have a job at Meta, you're definitely super smart, very intelligent, and no one at any other corporation would label you as an underperformer. And we've talked about this a couple of months ago, where companies were also saying they're letting go of underperformers. And it's one thing, like I think this lady is saying, to just mention that, hey, your performance hasn't been up to par, we really want you to fix X, Y, and Z, but you didn't, so we have a problem now. Just to the person's face, in person. But to do a press release or whatever happened to give this information out that they're letting go of underperformers, it's just criminal. Because yes, now I think it was Intuit, I don't remember which one now, but if you worked at that company and you have like that and you have that on your resume, then these other companies are gonna be like, oh, were you an underperformer? I mean, you're not gonna really know. And that's not fair anyways, because who's to say? You're not gonna let go of the 5% lowest performers or underperformers and have any sort of calculation. I know Zuckerberg is a genius, he's super smart, but I mean, where do you really come up with this calculation of the bottom 5 performers? Is it people who are on performance improvement plans? Is it people who didn't meet their sales goals? Like, what is it? Like, how do you come up with this bottom 5% besides just picking numbers out of a hat or names out of a hat, or just saying this person makes more than this amount in this department, we're letting them go? It seems more like the latter than any sort of thought out, calculated process. And why label them as underperformers? Like, that's so messed up. I mean, that's basically peeing on someone where they're already down, because they're gonna struggle enough in this job market already, but now they can't even use like the clout or the position that they earned at Meta through very, very hard work to get them to the next job, because now it's gonna put a stain, a blemish on their resume. But let's continue with this post from Jennifer. She says, however, publicly branding employees as low performers serves no one, not the individuals, not the remaining team, and not the company's reputation. Leadership is about more than making tough decisions. It's about how we make them. If your bottom 5% could be someone else's top talent, why create unnecessary barriers for the next opportunity? Layoffs are hard enough. We should lead with empathy and ensure we choose dignity over labels. And that's true. I mean, why make it harder for someone? It's one thing if they quit and maybe you get a little bit bitter and upset about that, which is still not very appropriate, but to lay off someone and then say they're underperformers, okay, that's really messed up. Like I said, I can give you a little bit of wiggle room if you are that petty about someone leaving on their own accord, but to lay them off and then say they're underperformers, there's no need for that. Like she says, that doesn't benefit anyone. Let's move on to Reddit, where someone says that update, went to a job interview at Wendy's, and I believe their first post said they're looking to go to a job interview at Wendy's because they need to land some kind of job, or else they're going to wind up homeless in the next few months. So their update was, went to a job interview at Wendy's, then Popeyes next door, offered me more money. I have a bachelor's degree and am making less now. So I don't know the full spectrum of what they were going through, but the idea of having a bachelor's degree in anything and then having to go back to fast food, like we say all the time, the past couple months, you gotta do what you gotta do. At least they're going out and, as some of you guys would say, humbling themselves. But man, to go through all that time and energy, 4 years and thousands of dollars. I think the average bachelor's degree costs you like $30,000. Then having to go work maybe at minimum wage at Wendy's or Popeyes. That's rough. That's certainly not the American dream. Let's stick with Reddit, and this person just has a vent. They just got to get something off their chest. And the headline here is, "I suck at job interviews now." And they go on to say, "I got laid off in November, 3 weeks after my 12-month maternity leave ended. I really loved the job, was intending to stay for years, and it felt like my entire adult world collapsed in an instant. Since then, I've done several job interviews, but they haven't gone amazingly well. I don't have nearly the polish and professionalism I once had before having a baby. I used to be able to kill it, was landing offers left and right, but now after a year out of the workforce, I'm so rusty and it shows. Not to mention the exhaustion, the gaps in my memory, the inability to form a coherent narrative about my work. All of it can be chalked up to the fact that I also haven't slept more than 5 consecutive hours in almost 2 years. It just sucks so bad. I got another rejection letter today after making it to round 3, and it knocked me down a peg. I hate my previous employer for putting me in this position. Did I mention that it sucks? It sucks." And then they go on to say, "Back to gig work and no benefits for me." So this goes back to people saying nobody wants to work. I mean, come on. This person had a baby, spent 2 years with their child, which is completely reasonable. But the interesting thing was here that they got a 12-month maternity leave. So it wasn't like 3 or 4 months. I mean, that's a long time. But unfortunately, when it comes to maternity leave these days, you gotta probably have something lined up, because they might not fire you during maternity leave, because I think you only take like 70% of your income. It's some kind of reduction, but you might have to have a new job lined up before that maternity leave ends. And it's completely reasonable to not be as polished at the job interviews, and it's completely reasonable to have some memory lapse after having a baby. So I don't think that there's anything ridiculous here. Like I said, I'm happy that they got the 12-month maternity leave at least. And obviously they're doing something right, because they've made it to an interview, right? So they have a good resume, they're applying for appropriate roles, making it to round 3, and then getting rejected. So not good. Not good. And that's why a lot of people are not having kids and not getting married and not doing any of the things, and they're just living miserable, lonely lives because of how bad the job market has been. And lastly, we have a tweet that just says, "Today I had an interview for a job and the recruiter didn't even bother to show up for the call and still hasn't responded. That's a pretty good indicator that company is not worth my time." Which is true. It's good when someone shows you their red flags up front on the first date or the first interview, and you can completely avoid that situation. But let me know what you think about these messages and what's going on with these people's interviews and job process and their job experiences. And if you have a story that you want to share, let me know down in the comments and make it very clear. Please share this in a future episode, and I'll make sure to grab that information, that story, and put it in a future episode. But people are getting fed up, and I can completely relate to these thoughts and these feelings that these people on the internet are sharing. And it's good to know that it's not just me, it's not just you. We have a real big problem with our job market in 2025. Talk to you later.